Hello, and welcome to Rocket Fuel, your daily update of everything that's happening in Rocket Pool and Ethereum ecosystems. My name is Wack. Today is July 24th, and today's episode on the Rocket Pool side is going to cover Security Council, like removing ODAO Guardian stuff, which is really exciting. We're going to be talking about BTCS and Rocket Pool. On the Ethereum side, actually on the staking side, we're going to be talking about a lot of unstaking and what that means. And on the Ethereum side, we are going to be talking about the treasury companies. We're going to be talking about the ETFs, of course. We're going to be talking about post-Pectra blobs and how that's looking. We're going to be talking about Base getting 10 times faster. And in other news, we'll be talking about Roman Storm and his court case and how that's looking right now. So let's get started.
10, 9, ignition sequence start, 6.
Okay, so we're going to start here with this post from Langas. And Langas yesterday said, hey everyone, as part of disabling the protocol DAO Guardian plan, we completed a series of Security Council tests on mainnet. So it says these tests were successful. So we were able to disable and re-enable deposits. We have some small improvements to tooling, but this gives us confidence we can execute swiftly. Many thanks. So this is really exciting. Like the way with the Houston upgrade, what happened was the community was given a lot more leeway over like decentralization, and the PDAO was given more powers taken away from the team, and that was mainly through the Guardian wallet that existed. That was a wallet that was able to change parameters on the network, on the protocol, and that included treasury funding and also things like some parameters on how Rocket Pool is set up, and they were the ones who had the control of changing those parameters. And then with the Houston upgrade, that was kind of given to the community, but there was supposed to be this like kind of intermediary group called a Security Council that was going to be set up, however the PDAO wanted to set it up. And what happened is, we haven't set the Security Council up yet, but here what Langas is doing is making sure that everything with the Security Council, the way that the framework and the guardrails are set up for the Security Council, it looks like things are working. So they've done some tests. They were able to disable and re-enable deposits. So what would happen is if there was a error, if there was a big problem with the protocol, then the Security Council will be able to like block certain things from happening and slow things down. But it looks like things are on track for that. So that is really cool. Hopefully we'll be getting some more updates about that soon. Okay, in the next news, we have this tweet from the Rocket Pool Twitter account, and we mentioned this on Rocket Fuel a couple of days ago when we were talking about Smart Node 1.17.0, and one of the things that it allowed was a new relay to be added to the block building process, and this relay is actually the BTCS relay, which is what the treasury company BTCS have been using to build their blocks, and this is really cool that this has now been added to the relay, so they can actually use it on their validators that they use on the Rocket Pool side. And if anyone else in the community wants to use their relays as well, they're welcome to do that. So the Twitter account says BTCS relay is now available to all the Rocket Pool node operators as of the recent Smart Node upgrade. It only accepts blocks from the BTCS builder, but returns any profit back to node operators that use it. Also benefits rETH liquid stakers. So there's more information below that you can go and read on the BTCS page. So this is actually Ethereum Bull here says that I'm not going to run censoring validators for OFAC, but thank you. But yeah, they are blocking OFAC sanctioned addresses, but this is really cool that this relationship between Rocket Pool and BTCS is actually, I think, going pretty well. It's definitely come to the forefront like these last few weeks, and the BTCS side have been name dropping Rocket Pool a whole lot, which is of course really, really nice to see. But I guess they're the ones who are definitely going to be using this. They'll be using their own builder, their own relay, but other members of the community can now also use this if they want. Okay, we have an update on the 2 votes that were taking place in the Rocket Pool DAO, and these have both finished now. And the first one was the IMC election, and we talked about this in the previous episode. The actual final slate didn't change. So Valdorf, Samus, Hululo, Destroyer, Dookie, Scuzzle, and Ken are now members of the IMC. And Dr. Worm and myself are backup members. If any of the first members leave, then we will step in and we can help with those duties. And Dr. Worm and I have both been IMC members in the past, so we kind of know the ropes, so we can jump in and get going right away. But that's within the next 6 months. If people leave after 6 months, then there'll have to be another election to fill those spots of the people who left. But yeah, I did my year on the IMC, and I was happy to step away from there. And I think that it was a really fun time for me. But the reality is that I think I just spread myself a little bit too thin by adding more duties on my plate than I could handle, I think. So that was the main reason why I was kind of stepping down, but not stepping down. And yeah, thankfully, this worked out for everyone. The people who are going to be on the IMC next year, I have worked with all of these people either on the IMC or on the GMC, and they are all fantastic members. So Val, Samus, and Hulo, I worked with those guys on the IMC last year, and then Destroyer, Dookie, Scuzzle. Not Dookie, actually. Sorry, Dookie I've never worked with before in any of the management committees, I think. Maybe. I think. Yeah. But Scuzzle and Ken, of course, are with the GMC as well. So yeah, the full slate, they're really well-established community members, well-respected community members. I think they're all going to do a great job, and the IMC is in good hands going forward for the next year. Okay, there was an announcement out of Pendle today of them launching Rocket Pool integration on Base. So here they said initiating countdown, T minus 10, yield ignition sequence started, engines primed on Base, and then T minus 3 boosters locked, Rocket Pool and Alpha Growth and Pendle. And this is going to be liftoff on December 18th, 2025. So Pendle is... They tell you exactly what you can do here. So it says Pendies can now tap into ETH staking yield trades, plus earn special alpha growth rewards while they're at it. That's right, for a limited time, the Pendle LP for this market is being especially incentivized with exclusive rewards courtesy of alpha growth. So linked to rETH, and it says that this is 18th December 2025. So yeah, if you use Pendle, then this is something that you can look into. Now, I don't use Pendle. I've never used Pendle. I know that they have two different ways that you can interact with it. There's something called PT and Pendle tokens and yield tokens, if I recollect. And the way that the way that you can kind of mess around with yield there is you're gonna need to figure that out. But yeah, Pendle's been around for a while. I've never used it, and apparently their AI on their website is really good. So if you have any questions of it, then you can go and ask there and get a lot of that information. Actually, this pool matures on December 18th, 2025. So that's how that works. So yeah, if you are interested in that, then go take part in it. But yeah, they're using rETH now on Base. Okay, I wanted to give a shout out to Phiz for this tweet that he put out, which I really liked. So he says, institutional investors need to know that our superpower is decentralization. They want to grow with us, and that's exciting. And he says, make sure they know about protocols like Rocket Pool that engage with the community in decentralized staking for a more robust network. So I think there's been a very low-key panic about just how much ETH is coming online with the treasury companies. It's literally millions of ETH, and that is going to get staked. And there's worries about how it might skew the balance of power in the staking ecosystem, right? But one thing to remember is that the power that a validator has isn't actually that much. It's only when they reach certain thresholds that we really need to start worrying about things. So at 33% threshold, they can start impacting finality. And that obviously isn't good. But then 66% is the real threshold, which is where they can choose which fork they want to follow, or they could fork Ethereum basically. So that is obviously not good. But for any of these treasury companies to get to 33% of the stake would require them to literally right now purchase more than like 15 million ETH, I think. So they're on track of doing that pretty much. But the reality is that, for them to get all that stake online would just drive the price up astronomically. And of course, with the price going higher, then them buying more ETH just happens less and less. Now, could they reach that 66% number? I strongly doubt it. Like, we're going to be looking at the validator count in a few minutes, but they would need, they would need 60 million ETH, our current stake, or something along those kind of lines, to get the 66% of validators under their control. And for them to do that would just be implausible, really. So yeah, I think we'll be okay. But what we need is more of these treasury companies actually going to places like Rocket Pool to stake their ETH. And if they're not staking with Rocket Pool directly, then they can go and mint our ETH, and then they can use that in DeFi. So, there's different options that they can have. And hopefully, some of these treasury companies will end up choosing the Rocket Pool option, which of course would be good for everyone. Okay, Sleety was teasing the new Saturn website. So there is going to be a dedicated website made for the Saturn upgrade, and this will be a subsection on the Rocket Pool website. And Sleety, of course, is like our resident designer, and he's currently being hired by the GMC. And this is like a little teaser of the Saturn Explainer website that he's making. That is, a one-stop shop for getting all the information on what's happening with Saturn. So it gives you information about 4 ETH validators. It tells you what mega pools are. It tells you about how protocol revenue share is going to be split, and give you a whole lot more information there as well about what's coming in Saturn 1. And then later, I guess it'll be upgraded for Saturn 2 as well. So yeah, this is going to be a really, really nice website. Once it launches, which it looks like it should be coming soon, then I will, of course, cover it on Rocket Fuel, and you guys can check it all out. Okay, so let's talk about some staking news, since we just mentioned it a minute ago. And the best place to get the stats is this website, Ethereum Validator Queue, which was created by Hani Abu. And the thing to see here is that the exits actually are at an all-time high. So I think there are a couple of different things to explain, why that's happening. The go-to response that people have is, the ETH price has gone up, so all these people are exiting their validators, and they're exiting their validators so they can sell their ETH. So currently the exit queue is taking about 12 days. So if you exited your validator today, it will take 12 days and 2 hours for you to get access to that ETH. And then there's a sweep delay of 9.5 days, but I think that happens within that time, so I don't think you have to worry about an extra 9.5 days on top of that. But the idea is that, hey, look, these people started unstaking their ETH a couple of days ago, so give it 10 days, and then there's going to be a huge amount of ETH that's coming onto the market, and 600 and basically 700,000 ETH as things stand right now in the exit queue, and that's going to mean that my ETH has topped. So I think that I can kind of understand why people would say that as their first take, that these people are exiting to sell, but the reality is actually a little bit more complicated. So a lot of people are borrowing ETH on Aave to short ETH. And because of that, the borrow rate of ETH has gone really high on Aave. I think it's averaged around 5% per day over the last couple of weeks, but it's actually spiked up to 15% plus. So if you supply your ETH to Aave, then you get 15% interest on that, which is huge. Now, what's happened a lot, and we've talked about this on Rocket Fuel a whole bunch of times as well, is that people loop their stake, right? So the way that works is you have an LST, you go to Aave or another service like Aave, you deposit your ETH, and you deposit your LST, like our ETH, in return you get ETH. Now, with that ETH, what you can do is then go stake it again, get another, swap it for the LST again, and do this a whole bunch of times. This is called like loop staking. And what happens is that, the Aave interest rate will be, for example, like 2%. Your staking reward will be like, say, 2.5%. So each time you loop it, you're adding on that extra 0.5% because you're keeping that for yourself. However, when the prices go really high, then you are actually losing money in that, because each time you looped it, you're actually like paying extra fees, and the fees are higher than the staking reward. So it's actually like a huge loss leader if you are doing that. So this is the kind of time where a lot of looping is being wound down. So I think what's happening here is that this ETH that is leaving the queue is mostly going to be paid back to Aave, and then Aave's treasury will kind of come back into balance with the interest rates. So I think that's what I'm expecting to see, is most of it will go to Aave, and then after that it could probably go back to some kind of DeFi or some kind of other DeFi strategy, but it doesn't mean that it's going to get sold necessarily. These are people who just like take advantage of looping rates, and that's what they were doing. So you might see some worry about there being people selling their ETH. I don't think you really need to worry about it. Let's actually dig into the numbers a little bit. So the exit queue currently is about 700,000 ETH. The entrance queue is 306,000 ETH. So that's mostly coming from the treasury companies. I think what they're doing is buying ETH and then they're just staking it. So that could even be, a chunk of that could be SBET's ETH, for example. And we're going to talk about them in a few minutes. But the network, this is the thing that I was talking about earlier, about getting to certain staking thresholds. So currently there are basically 110,000 validators on Ethereum, and they have around 35 million ETH, let's just say, staked. So for you to get to 1/3 of the validators, you would need to have 1/3 of the total amount that's there, right? So if you say, for example, there's 1,200 validators, then you need to add another 600,000 validators to the current set in order to have 33% of the 1.8 million validators. So that is a whole lot of stake coming online if that's what they were doing. Now to get to 66%, and if there's already 35 million ETH there, then you need 35 million, 66% of the total amount. So that you would need 105 million ETH staked for you to have 70 million of that to be 66%. So when you start thinking of it like that, when these institutions could actually start doing damage to Ethereum, the amount of ETH they would need would just be like stupendously high. And I'd like to see them try to attack Ethereum in that way. The economic security for Ethereum is just like huge. It's just absolutely huge. Even in the worst case scenario, if they were like took over, say for example, Lido and Coinbase and Binance, then they could do a 33% attack, on Ethereum, impact finality, preventing finality from happening. But to get to 66% of the stake, even right now, if they were just to take over the validators that are already there, it would be too difficult for them to, take control over those 700,000 validators. It just wouldn't happen. So I don't think we need to worry too much about that kind of attack, but it's good to see what it's looking like. So as you can see here on the chart, this number of exiting validators is actually all-time high exit. So it's definitely interesting. Okay, and here Crypto Condom, I think, had kind of sharing some ideas as well. So Crypto Condom is one of those people who was sharing the idea that this could mark a top in a local top in the cycle in a week or two. It says remember to take profits, but then right away people were saying that don't, like, that will just be one day of ETF flows, or they'll be doing other things in other things in DeFi. So there's not too much to worry about. Here is you actually seeing that the stake is coming, like for example, coming from Lido. So Lido now, if you have STETH or wrapped STETH and you want to go and get your ETH back at your market rate, you will wait 18 days for that stake to go through the Lido system. So what's happening is that Lido's tokens are now selling at a discount on the secondary market. And I think what will happen is, a bunch of these staking services will have their TVL like go down, and their percentage of the stake, depending on how it works, be reduced a little bit. Now, what's actually really interesting is that Rocket Pool as a community and as a protocol has never really fully leaned into looping too much. There was some of it happening on Contango, but not that much. And what we've seen is that, there won't be too much of an impact on Rocket Pool with this looping unwind that's happening. Sadly, something like NodeSet, they have lost 50% of their validators in one go. So they've been hit much harder with something like this than something like Rocket Pool. So yeah, just something to keep in mind, that if you want to sell your LSTs, you're either going to have to wait, or you are going to have to sell it at a discount on the secondary market. And then here, Robodog kind of explains what's happening with STETH as well. So it's saying it's experiencing a sustained depeg and the mechanisms. So if there is a depeg on the token that you trust, and if you think that is going to be fine, then one way that you can kind of trade that is by buying the token at a depeg and then going to the protocol and asking for a withdrawal from the protocol, and then waiting, the 18, 20 days, whatever it's going to be, to get your ETH back, and then you pocket the difference basically. So it could end up being like a few months worth of staking rewards for just a few days. I think someone worked it out and they said that you could be getting somewhere like 10% APR by kind of arbitraging the discount. There is a chance the discount gets worse, if not now, then at the peak of the bull market, I think. But that's a discussion for a whole nother day. Okay, and talking about NodeSet, actually, they have introduced a commit boost to their hyperdrive, which is their version of the smart node. So if you are a NodeSet node operator, you can now activate commit boost in the upcoming version 1.3.0. That's currently a dev configuration, but the way it's described is Commit Boost is a powerful proposer builder separation client that offers detailed reporting and transparency around block building. It's very low latency, the ability to specify relays on the per validated basis, and responsive development team with a proven track record of quickly addressing feedback. It's fully open source and written in Rust. So if you want to learn more about Commit Boost, there's this article here that you can go and check out, and you can learn all about how their block building is different from MEV Boost, and how it all works for you. So go and have a look at that. And final staking news is this update from Nethermind, and they have version 1.32.3. So this again is if you are on the energy web chain that we mentioned a few days ago, you need to update to this version, but they actually have some highlights for Ethereum node operators as well. So there's fixing things with archive nodes, and there's fixing an issue with broken block processing, and general improvements and stability updates. So that's pretty cool. Okay, let's move on to some Ethereum news now. And I actually want to start with this Ethereum news that I thought was really interesting. And this is the blob occupancy is now at 75% since we went up to Pectra. And this has actually been really, really cool to see. So if you look at blobs coming into reality, which was last year, with the Denkun upgrade, you saw that it took a while to get to the 3 blob saturation level, and basically once they got there, then they kind of stayed there until Denkun happened. And since since Pectra happened, then that moved up the blob count to 6. And since then, the number of blobs that we've been using has trended up, but what's happened is that now it's getting more saturated, and I think maybe in a few weeks it would actually be at 6, because activity on Ethereum and its layer 2s are growing, and there's more attention coming to Ethereum, so people are coming back to Ethereum. So what's really cool is that 3-day moving average now has hit 4.5. Actually, the average for the day has hit 4.5 blobs per block for the first time. And I think it's only like a matter of weeks or maybe a month away before we're hitting 6 blobs per block. Now, what's really interesting, of course, is with the next upgrade for Saka, the headliner upgrade for that is PIADAS, which will massively increase the blob capacity. So just as we get into the point where blobs will start burning ETH again, we'll get another upgrade, and then it'll take a while for that to fill out as well. But the reality is that as more and more chains come online, the activity that L2s, the ones that are using blobs as their data availability, what will end up happening is that they are going to saturate the amounts quicker. And I think that's going to be really, really cool to see. Now, if you have a look at Grow the Pie and look at Ethereum ecosystem, you'll see that the number of transactions that are going through on Ethereum are an all-time high. And not right now as this is the moment, but generally, like, we're doing about 200 and it's about 340 transactions per second. The gas fees on Ethereum are around 26 cents for an ETH transfer and 0.0017 for the L2s. If we look at who's actually like cheapest, Ink is doing well, Swell Chain is doing well, but most of them are, those really, really low prices. In terms of activity, this is actually really interesting. The majority of the activities on base, which is maintaining quite high TPS, but you also see that World Chain is doing quite well. Ethereum is actually hitting higher TPS numbers now. For a while people thought Ethereum was like 15 TPS, but now you can actually get up to 25 TPS with the upgrades that happened to the gas limit. But base is constantly there, like doing between 75 and 100 TPS, and that's just right now when I'm recording, but I've seen it go up to like 200 300 TPS as well, which is of course really, really cool to see. And yeah, these numbers are just going to get bigger as more and more data availability comes available, and as more and more of these chains come online as well. So yeah, there's money being made in Ethereum land. And as you can see on this chart on the right here, daily TPS, so the average right now is 296 transactions per second. And that chart literally is up and to the right. Like my face is kind of blocking it. Let me just see if I can change it. Yeah, right here, it's up and to the right. Like it's just grown astronomically. And of all the Ethereum transactions taking place now, 94% of them are happening on L2s, which is absolutely amazing to see. So yeah, I love this dashboard from Grow the Pie. It's really, really cool with all the data they have in there. So definitely go and check it out, have a look, and you can just see how like Ethereum's thriving. Okay, let's talk about treasury companies, and the big one to talk about is Bitmine, and this is the one from Tom Lee. And yeah, it's just I don't have words to describe just how strong they've been. So they have hit $2 billion worth of ETH 16 days after closing their pipe, and they have just stacked so much ETH. It's truly gargantuan. So a couple of big reports came out about Bitmine, and one of those was that they have sold shares to Peter Thiel. Another one of those we're going to be talking about in a second is that they have sold shares to Cathy Wood of ARK Invest, but they have now hit 566,776 tokens, and that's just a truly gargantuan amount of ETH that they've hit. They've gone into number one, and here you can see ARK Invest bets on Ethereum and revolutionized the market. So they actually sold Coinbase shares and Robinhood shares in order to buy these ETH shares, which of course is these like ETH treasury company shares, which of course is really, really cool to see. And they're just giving them like a huge amounts of money for them to go and buy more ETH with that. And then here Nomad says that Cathy is pivoting to ETH, like Kraken did with their ETH machine company. So it's I predict at some point one or more of these major exchanges will pivot from BTC as store of value to ETH as store of value. So Coinbase, who already have over 100,000 ETH, and then there's Tether, Bitfinex. They are going all in on BTC at the moment. Gemini, Kraken of course have their L2. Binance have their Binance Smart Chain and their own BNB coin, and then OKX and Bybit. So there are a few options there for some that might adopt ETH, but it looks like this is happening right now, and they are just buying huge amounts of ETH. So yeah, it's staggering. However, it looks like they're going to have a lot more ETH coming. So this is Tom meeting with Jensen, who's the CEO of NVIDIA. And NVIDIA, of course, is the is the number one market cap company in the world. And it looks like they're talking ETH. So it would be really, really amazing to see NVIDIA getting in on buying ETH, whether that's through treasury shares or whether they're buying ETH directly. It's actually quite remarkable. And everyone here is saying, did you talking about ETH? Like, I hope you're talking about ETH. So yeah, that is a really, really interesting take there. I have SBET. So SBET, sadly, were kind of chugging along, doing a really, really good job. They were actually went ahead on Tuesday. They were the number one company, and they announced that they now hold 360,807 ETH. So they bought around 80,000 ETH last week, which is just 10,000 ETH a day, pretty much more than that, which is about $35 million a day. Now they were saying that they will keep buying ETH, tens of millions of dollars of ETH a day, and they are sticking with that, and that's absolutely remarkable. And they're actually giving really good information about how many shares there are and how much ETH they have to go with those shares, and everything with that. Their board actually passed the vote today saying that they have the permission to raise $5 billion more through ATM sales. So they will sell their shares on the market and use the money they gain from selling their shares to buy ETH. So they've got permission to get up to $5 billion now, which is just staggering amounts of money. It's truly just mind-boggling how much it is. Yeah, and that, of course, we're just waiting for these buys to come through. So if you actually have a look at the strategic reserve now, there is $2.31 million of ETH, sorry, 2.31 million ETH, which is $8.6 billion worth of ETH now in these companies. And that's not just the treasury company, that's all companies using ETH as strategic reserve. I'm going to be talking about the ETF in a minute, but that has 5.61 million ETH in there now, which is $21 billion worth of ETH in there, which is, just mind-bogglingly large amounts of money. We're going to be talking about the ETFs in a few minutes as well. But if you actually have a look at the public treasuries, there are now 11 of them on board. Sorry, you can't see the rest of them on the bottom of the screen, but with these 11 of them, Bitmine is now number one with 566,000 ETH, which is worth over $2.1 billion. And then we have SBET with 360,000. And then Ether Machine has gone into number three with 170,000. But it looks like they will want to raise more in the coming days, which of course I am happy to see them do that, to buy more ETH in the coming days. And then we've got Bit Digital and BTCS is down to number five. And after that, we've got some companies lagging, but hopefully they'll be catching up soon. But yeah, this is just fantastic. The treasury companies are kind of fighting out. Bitmine and Sharplink, they're kind of having a gentlemanly fight back and forth about who's going to be number one. And it looks like Bitmine is going to win. They've got this aim of buying 5% of all ETH, which is 6 million ETH. So they want to increase their holdings by 10x of what it is right now. More power to them. Good luck, Tom. Get on it. Okay, let's talk about the ETFs. They have been absolutely gargantuan as well. I keep using that word gargantuan. I am honestly running out of adjectives to describe just how huge the amount of money that's flowing into ETH right now is. It's mind-boggling. It's truly astonishing amounts of money. And here we can see Nate Grassi here saying that the spot ETH ETFs had their 1 year anniversary. And on the day of the anniversary, they had $330 million of inflows. So that was the 7th best day since launch. However, the key bit of information here that Nate is sharing is that in 6 of the best 7 days of inflows have happened in the last 2 weeks. So now there's a 13-day streak of inflows. And in that time, there's been $4.4 billion worth of new ETH being bought. You start thinking about that and I just can't comprehend it. It's just this there's more ETH basically than I think 10 years of issuance or 20 years of issuance, just some huge amount of ETH that is just being bought up. It's just astronomical. That I don't know what else to say. And here, out of all ETFs ever, iShares, this is one from BlackRock, the Ethereum ETF, has become the 3rd fastest to hit $1 billion in assets. And this is the 3rd fastest ETF. The 3 fastest ETFs are 10 billion now, all crypto ETFs. And they are, ETF is an industry that's been around for 3 decades and has 4,400 different ETFs listed. The first 2 are BlackRock's Bitcoin trust, which has 34 days it took to reach $10 billion. Their Fidelity BTC ETF took 53 days, and now the Ether, the one from BlackRock, has taken 251 days. So yeah, that's really, really huge. And And let's have a look at the market, right? Like, so let me just change the view so you guys can see the right column. The inflows in these last few days have just been so big. So 211 million, 383 million, 204 million, 259 million, 192 million, 726 million. That is the biggest day ever. 602 million, 402 million, 296 million, 533 million. That was on Tuesday. Then yesterday, 332 million inflows. And out of since the 7th of July, there have only been 4 moments across these different ETFs where there's been outflows. Every other ETF across that time has had inflows, and the total, of course, now stands at many billions of dollars. So yeah, this is just absolutely phenomenal. But however, if you look at the Bitcoin ETFs, one of the things that's happened that's really interesting is the ETH ETFs flipped the BTC ETFs for inflows, not for total assets or anything like that. We're way behind on those metrics. But for inflows, when the BTC for the last 3 days has been getting outflows, so 131 million outflow, 68 million outflow, 85 million outflow, and today it's looking like they got 11 million inflow so far, but there'll be more data coming soon. Let me see if there's a refresh of that Ethereum one. Yeah, and the Ethereum ETFs so far have had 9.6 million inflow, with Grayscale's ETH having $18.5 million of outflow, but their ETH ETF, their mini trust, having 23 million of inflow, and we'll get more numbers as the evening goes on. But today might be the day where Bitcoin might take back the inflows data. But yeah, these last few days have been absolutely huge for Ethereum, and it looks like it's not slowing down much. The thing is that the price has it reached nearly $3,900, like $3,800 and I think $70. Since then, it did retrace a little bit, but it bounced back a little bit more today. Currently, in the last 24 hours, ETH is up around 3%, and it's kind of hovering around that 3,750 to 3,750 range. It'd be interesting to see what happens in the coming days. I think that we're going to make a push to 4,000 very soon, and we'll be leaving these kind of numbers behind. But we'll see that as the days go by about how that's going to play out. Okay, if you are an L2 enjoyer and if you use Base like I do every day, then you will actually see a big change in the way that your blocks are built now. The Flash blocks integration and the pre-confirmations for Base have now come online, and this is actually really cool because you will get blocks coming through in 200 milliseconds, so faster than the time to think. You can get your transactions done. Previously, Base was working with 2-second blocks, and now they're using flash blocks to get those pre-confirmations, and your transactions will go through really fast. So Jesse here says that if you're a builder, tap in to make your app 10 times faster. And you can see it happening super fast now. So the limitation now might actually be on your wallet, whether it can handle the speed with which that information comes through. But on chain, you're going at lightning speed, and that is actually really awesome. So yeah, this is going to be a huge UX improvement for people who want their trades to be happening lightning fast, and you're going to start seeing that as the different apps launch those capabilities. But I think it's happening now. I haven't actually done my daily activities on Base yet, but later on when I do that, I'll hopefully get to experience it myself. Okay, there's a little bit of interesting nuggets here that Joseph Lubin has dropped about Linea, which is consensus is layer 2. And here Le Chiffre said that quick TLDR on Linea. So they are going to Ethereum L1 will use Linea to become the ZK native execution layer. I'm not sure if that's been decided on. And then there's a treasury company will use the L1 and Linea to generate yield with staking, restaking, and DeFi. So there's really interesting little tidbits of information there that Le Chiffre was kind of hinting at, kind of saying that there's going to be some kind of relationship between Linea and SBET, which of course Joe Lubin is the founder of Consensus, and he is the chairman or the CEO of, chairman of Sharplink Gaming. So he says, good points, should make for an exciting token generation event and years of powerful growth on the Linea token economy. This paradigm is about to shift because we believe in something, and that's with the ETH thing in there. So Joe Lubin's teasing an airdrop, I presume, some kind of token generation happening with Linea, and money going from SBET potentially to Linea as well, to do stuff there. I'm not sure exactly how it's going to work. I don't know what's going on, but there's some interesting teases happening there. Okay, let's move on to some other news now. And this other news starts here with banks starting to use crypto relationships. So PNC Bank in the US has done a deal with Coinbase to bring cryptocurrency services to banking customers. So it looks it's going to let clients buy, hold, and sell crypto, and they'll be using Coinbase's platform on the back end to do that, and I guess their own front end as well. So I think we're going to start seeing this more and more happening, where crypto assets will become available to traditional banking customers. One thing that I was listening to today was some talk about the Genius Act, and people seem to think that banks will start white labeling. Not banks, sorry, institutions. Banks will make stablecoins, and then companies and huge enterprises will start using putting their own sticker on the front end and then getting yield from these banks. So it looks like the banks are going all in on crypto. And I want to say that hopefully we'll see some banks making their own L2s coming soon, building on Ethereum, but they're definitely taking steps towards working with crypto companies. So that is going to be one to keep an eye on, definitely. Okay, if you have ever gone on centralized exchanges and traded coins, and if you're trading new coins, you will have noticed that there's market makers there, and their job, well, no one really knows what their job is. It's different from project to project, but the idea is that their job is to provide liquidity for tokens and get an idea of what they're kind of doing. But sometimes, and some of the less reputable ones do some things that are not in the best interest of the token that they're trying to market make for. Well, Coinwatch here have put out a tracking system. So it's a new way for crypto projects to see what their market makers are doing in real time using their API keys. So they've got information here saying that the market makers get hired, but they have zero visibility on what they're doing. And they just say, oh, there's $1 million of order book on Binance, for example, but how much of that is from the market maker, or did my market maker sell the tokens that I gave them? So this is why they made this. So it gives you information on what the market makers are doing and how they're working on chain. So hopefully this will add a bit of transparency to some of these coin listings and some of the liquidity that's available, and how all that's coming together. So if you are interested in that, then this was opt-in by a bunch of different market makers, and 12 of them have already started using the Coinwatch Track tool. And then I think they want to integrate more of them as well. But there are a couple of big ones here, like Galaxy is a big one. I want to see things like, Wintermute here, and a whole bunch of others. But the more that, get in on this, the better it'll be for the protocols that, gave market makers their tokens, but also better for people who want to buy tokens from centralized exchanges. And finally, we're going to end this episode with an update on the trial of Roman Storm that is currently happening in the US. And the Rage have actually been covering this quite a lot. And this David Morris has been giving some really good updates of the things that he's been seeing in the courtroom. Now, it seems like this trial is a bit of a mess from the perspective of the prosecution. And it looks like they've brought serious problems into the trial. One of the biggest problems is their first witness, who was talking about how they were involved in a scam and how their crypto was stolen. The idea was that, this crypto had gone to Tornado Cash and been laundered through Tornado Cash, and then went back to, whatever, then it went missing after that. It turns out that witness's crypto actually never went to Tornado Cash. So that was like a huge mess from the prosecution. It seems like one of the expert witnesses whose job it is to kind of like trail crypto, across the blockchain, and find out how things were traced, and like tracing crypto and find out what trail they took and stuff. It seems like that person doesn't know the difference between ETH and the ERC20 tokens. So there's like some really big question marks about the kind of case that the prosecution is leading. So here, from the Rage, it says Roman Storm's defense team has raised the specter of mistrial after FBI tracing expert failed to confirm the prosecution's first witness stolen funds had actually been sent to Tornado Cash. This was an update from a couple of days ago. And then after that, here it says the next update in the Tornado Cash trial against Roman Storm that it should make you sick to your stomach. So it says the court is allowing the prosecution's expert witness to testify to the feasibility of implementing KYC AML, despite the government no longer charging Roman Storm for AML KYC violations. So it looks like they're doing some fuckery on their side as well, trying to, massage what information can and can't, be presented to the jury. But it looks like things are going quite badly for them. So here, Lola says, we got access to private communications with the recovery firm that tied Roman Storm to the government's first witness, Katie Lynn. And it says the victim paid the service $90,000 in fees for fraudulent tracing reports, and the firm tried to market itself as having been involved in Binance's $4.3 million AML settlement, allegedly sold victims' email addresses to what appears to be another scam, asking the recipient to withdraw funds from exchanges, invest them in Bitcoin and Ethereum ETFs. So there's some huge messes with what's going on here with the companies that the government actually hired. If you do want updates, that the Rage is being a really good place to go, and they are basically giving some good information. So if you here, look, the IRS Special Agent George, tasked with tracing the government's first witness funds to Tornado Cash, testifies that he does not know what Crypto.com is, which is the exchange, I guess, that Katie Lynn was using, and doesn't know the difference between ERC20 tokens and ETH. So, yeah, it's just staggering. So I don't know how this is going to play out. It depends on how they convince the jury of what's going on, but it looks like it's a bit of a mess, and hopefully it breaks in favor of Roman here, and yeah, that's what we're hoping for. So on that note, I'm going to end today's episode. Sorry for not being around for the last couple of days. It was just a bit overwhelming with the amount of information that was out there. I'm on top of it now. So hopefully we'll get another episode tomorrow and then be back on track. But thank you all for watching, listening, and being part of the Rocket Fuel community. I hope you all have had a lovely couple of days and a lovely day ahead. And I'll see you all tomorrow. Bye.